Hi there, my name is Jordan Hayden and I'm the Education and Communications Coordinator at the Gowanus Canal Conservancy. And thank you so much for joining me today on this virtual tour of the Gowanus Canal, one of the most polluted bodies of water in the entire country. Today we'll talk a little bit about the past, present, and future for Gowanus and dig into some of the most pressing environmental issues as well as the most innovative solutions. So let's go. Right now, we're standing at the northernmost point of the Gowanus Canal, right along the Union Street Bridge. And as you can tell, there's a lot going on right now. But the Gowanus Canal didn't always look this way. In fact, it used to be a salt marsh, abundant with plant and animal life. It was utilized and cherished by the Lenape indigenous people for many, many years. But of course, during the periods of urbanization and industrialization, the land and its ownership began to change drastically. And with a growing need for transportation and shipping, the once beautiful salt marsh was converted into the industrial canal, similar to what you see here today. As factories began popping up along the Gowanus Canal, pollution became a massive issue, particularly from the three manufactured gas plants, or MGPs for short, that polluted a highly carcinogenic and toxic material called coal tar, also known as black mayonnaise. Coal tar was dumped directly into the Gowanus Canal for many years, and it wasn't until 1972, when the EPA released the Clean Water Act, that made this type of dumping illegal. However, the Gowanus Canal is still highly saturated with coal tar even today. The good news, though, is that in 2010, the Environmental Protection Agency declared the Gowanus Canal a Superfund site. That meant that finally, after years and years of contamination, this canal could properly be cleaned up. So that brings us to where we are today, in the midst of the Superfund cleanup. Right now, steel bulkheads are being installed to protect the land during the cleanup and to ensure that future contamination does not occur. The cleanup itself will happen in two steps, dredging and capping. First, approximately 10 feet of contaminated sediment will be dredged or removed from the Gowanus Canal. Then, a multi-layer cap will be installed to ensure future contamination does not occur. The Superfund cleanup will likely take many years to complete, and it's going to cost about $500 million. But, lucky for us, we don't have to pay for it. In fact, it's the polluters, or the potentially responsible parties, PRPs for short, who are responsible for funding this project. To learn more about the Gowanus Canal Superfund cleanup, you can visit GowanusCanalConservancy.org. So that covers it for Superfund stuff, but let's move on and see what else we have in store. I'm now standing at the entrance of the Bond Street Esplanade, right next to the Carroll Street Bridge. And while we talked a little bit about historic industrial waste, there's still another massive environmental issue we haven't even discussed yet. I'm talking about combined sewer overflow, or CSO for short. In most parts of New York City, we utilize a combined sewer system, which means all of the material that we flush down our drains meets in the same pipe as all of the stormwater that's flowing down the street. In a perfect world, all of this material is transported to a wastewater treatment facility, treated and re-released back into our waterways. However, when we receive too much rainfall, our sewer system is easily overwhelmed, and that means all of our wastewater and stormwater are unable to make it to the wastewater treatment facility. This means all of that raw and untreated material is ending up in our waterways. The Gowanus Canal receives 363 million gallons of CSO every single year. That's a lot of material. And down this 1.8 mile long waterway, there are 12 CSO outfall points. That means 12 opportunities for raw sewage and stormwater to enter into this canal. So what can you do about it? Reduce your water use, especially during a storm. That means prolonging dishes, laundry, showering, anything that uses a lot of water. And while conservation is extremely important, it's not the only solution to the CSO problem. In fact, let's go take a look at another one right now. We're now standing in Sponge Park, a green infrastructure pilot project that was developed by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Green infrastructure is critically important in New York City. It has the ability to absorb stormwater that would otherwise infiltrate our sewer system and contribute to the issue of CSO. If maintained properly, Sponge Park can absorb up to 1 million gallons of stormwater during a single rain event. There are also many curbside rain gardens, also known as bioswales, throughout the city that serve the same purpose. They're filled with hardy native plant species that can absorb roughly 2,000 gallons per rain event. Simply put, more green infrastructure equals less CSO. The city is also building gray infrastructure, including 2 massive CSO storage tanks. This will also work to reduce CSO. Before we head out to our final stop, I want to mention the changing nature of the Gowanus neighborhood. 363 and 365 Bond are 2 large developments that were built a few years back, and they look very different from the rest of the neighborhood. We expect to see more developments like this, especially as the city proposes a Gowanus rezoning. If done properly, a Gowanus rezoning has the ability to strengthen equity and sustainability in our neighborhood. But there is still a lot of work to be done in order to get there. The city must address priorities the community has laid out over the many years of public meetings. Gowanus Canal Conservancy believes it is critical that the city ensures net zero CSO, develops a comprehensive waterfront access plan, and secures additional funding and capital investment for public space. As part of the Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice, we stand with our partners to call for real investment in local public housing and the industrial business zone. Low-income communities of color and neighborhood businesses have been disproportionately affected by pollution, inadequate infrastructure, and gentrification. As we look towards a cleaner future, priorities for impacted communities need to be front and center. You can learn more about GCC's position on the rezoning on our website and in our Lowlands Master Plan. Now, let's wrap this tour up with one more stop. We finally made it to the last stop on our tour, Basalt Lodge. This space is the heart of GCC's work, and it's where we lead volunteer events, attend to stewardship work, educate students about urban ecology and citizen science, and sell plants and soil at our Lowlands Nursery. What's even better is we get to share this space with the New York City Department of Sanitation and the New York City Compost Project Big Reviews. But let's head inside so you can check it out. As we first enter the salt lot, you'll notice an expansive soft shoreline along the bank of the canal. A number of native plants, trees, and shrubs are planted here to provide habitat for marine life and wildlife. In the coming years, this space will be dug up to build a 4 million gallon CSO storage tank, as a major CSO outfall point is just around the corner. We're excited about the potential to integrate public space, stewardship, and education with city infrastructure. Next stop is the New York City Department of Sanitation salt tent. This salt is stored here throughout the year and is used in the wintertime to improve slippery winter road conditions. As we continue through this space, you'll see a number of large bays. The New York City Compost Project, Big Reuse, processes food scraps here to make compost. They often share the final product with community members through special giveaways and plant sales. To learn more about compost and food scrap drop-off hours, visit gowanuscanalconservancy.org/compost. We've now reached the first section of our Lowlands Nursery. While you can only see plants here at the moment, this is also where we host in-person K-12 education programs, from citizen science water quality testing to urban ecology plant propagation. And now for the rest of our nursery. We're one of the few nurseries in New York City that specializes in native and urban adaptive plants that can withstand our tough urban conditions and restore habitat. Plants are offered at a discount to community gardens and schools. You can check out our inventory and place an order at plants.gowanuscanalconservancy.org. And that concludes our tour for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you learned something new. If you'd like to learn more about Gowanus or GCC's work, you can visit gowanuscanalconservancy.org or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you soon.